सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। Chapter 3, Manifest and Unmanifest. The topic, Macrocosm and Microcosm.
Macrocosm and Microcosm. The 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita proclaims the immanence of Brahman both in the macrocosm and microcosm. That Brahman is the essence in the universe and the individual. The presence of Brahman is traced from the outermost contours of the universe and gradually drawn to the inner core of the individual to indicate his all-pervasive nature. Brahman personified declares himself as the illuminating power in the sun, moon, and fire. And he permeates the earth, nourishing the plants and all living beings. He acts as Vaishwanara, the fire in the body of beings. The fire, ever burning in beings, signifies the perpetual hunger apparent in their constant search for food. He continues narrating his role in inhalation, exhalation, ingestion, digestion, excretion in the gross body. Then on to the subtle body and the causal body, pervading thus the macrocosm and microcosm. Brahman, the supreme God, ultimately pronounces himself as the imperishable being beyond this perishable phenomenon.
To become God.
To become God, the unmanifest being is not an object of perception, emotion, or conception. It is the subject in you which perceives, feels, and thinks. Hence cannot be perceived, felt, or conceived. Human beings are totally unaware of the unmanifest God known as Atman, the supreme self within. The self is the unconditioned consciousness which, conditioned by the body, mind, and intellect, becomes the conditioned consciousness. The conditioned consciousness is the manifest individual. The individual experiences a constant pressure to return to his unmanifest self. But he is lost in the quagmire of perception, emotion, and thought of the world. The way to regain his original self is to shift his focus of attention from the world to the self within, thus adhering to the fundamental law, as you think, so you become.
The 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita talks about how Brahman pervades the macrocosm and the microcosm. How Brahman is the essence. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritah Pranapana Samayuktaha Pachamyannam Chaturvidam. That's how he concludes in chapter 15. About from verses 7 to 15, he talks about these two factors. How the macrocosm and the microcosm is Brahman. Brahman, layperson's terms, we use it as God. So it is one and the same. Layperson term we call it as God. Here we call it as Brahman. From sun to the moon, to the moon, to the plants, to the plants, to the human being. He traces it like that. We are not going into that full verses. When we study chapter 15, we will see that in detail. What he is saying here is quoting that how the macrocosm is also Brahman and how the microcosm is also Brahman. You can see the ornaments and get carried away by the nama rupa of the ornaments, or you give value to the ornaments only because it is gold. That's all it is. You can get carried away by the various shapes, sizes of the ornaments, the various designs, the various shapes, the various sizes. You can get carried away by those and miss the gold, or all these ornaments are valuable only because it is made up of gold. The value doesn't come from the Namarupa, the value comes from the essence. An ignorant person is one who gets carried away by the names and forms and he sees that misses the gold. The wise one understands the value itself is because of the gold. Fantastic design made of iron. You will not give lakhs and lakhs for that, no. Why are you worrying about gold, gold, gold all the time? Why don't you see the artistic work? Why can't you see the value of the work and pay lakhs and lakhs? 250 grams of iron necklace versus 250 grams of gold necklace. Design is beautiful. The workmanship is extraordinary. Why can't you give that money? You will not give that, even though you appreciate that. The value is because of the value you place on it is because it is made up of gold. So that is seeing Brahman as the essence of macrocosm and the microcosm. Just as you see the gold, just as you see the gold is that brings value to the ornaments, not the ornaments per se. Similarly, the macrocosm and the microcosm is because it is Brahman, not because it is whatever you see in the world. But Brahman and all is different, sir. But I can appreciate the beauty of the world. If you are appreciating the beauty, you have to appreciate the beauty of the essence. You have to appreciate the beauty of the essence. The value is because of the essence. So he says macrocosm and microcosm. The manifest is the macrocosm and microcosm is the manifest. The manifest world is the macrocosm and the manifest world is the microcosm. You see Brahman in both. And then he concludes by saying that we have seen already. In the previous lesson, we studied the Akshara, Akshara and Uttama Purusha. So that is how he concludes the topic. Pervading thus the macrocosm and microcosm, the Supreme God ultimately pronounces himself as the imperishable being beyond this perishable phenomenon. Beyond this perishable phenomenon, the Kshara and the Akshara lies the reality. The various shapes and sizes of the ornament is a superimposition upon gold. What is the superimposition? The design is the superimposition. The various shapes and sizes are the superimposition. What is the reality? Gold is the reality. The various shapes and sizes of pots are superimposed upon clay. Clay is the essence, the substratum. When you look at the various pots of various shapes and sizes, you can get carried away by that and miss the clay. Similarly, you look at the various manifestations in the world, you miss the reality. We are not discussing what makes you to miss the reality. Here he is saying you are missing it. You are constantly missing the reality. How can you miss the reality? Because you are looking at the form. Because you are looking at the form, you are missing the reality. And you can't look at both. You can't look at both together. If you see the essence, you miss the. If you see the essence, you will not be carried away by the Nama Rupa. If you are looking at the Nama Rupa, you miss the essence. But sir, is there a technique by which we can see both? How nice it will be. So we can have the world and we can have the God and we can have God also. If we can see both, we can have world and we can have God also. No. Why not find out what that technique is? He says, if you see one, you don't see the other. When we say you don't see the other means it's not that you'll become blind. You don't see the other means you see the reality of the other. What is the reality of the other? The clay is permanent. The pot is impermanent. The gold is permanent. The form is impermanent, because you gift the chain to your daughter, she will say old design and she will go on melt it and take a new design. Gold doesn't change. If you give it as gold, you are free. If you give it as a design, you will be a frustrated person. It's as simply. You give it as gold, whatever happens, you don't bother. But you give it as design, you will have a problem. What is the problem? Hold on to the hold on to the design, hold on to the form, hold on to the name and form. Here he says that is the cause that you miss the essence. So you see the form as changing, and you see how all the changes are supported by Brahman, the changeless. So there is the changeless, that is the adhara, the base, the support. The beauty of here is, it is not the gold supports the ornament. Please understand that. The problem in the language is we have to use some words, and these words are so confusing. You can't say the gold is supporting the ornament. The gold appears as the ornament. Are you able to follow? It is not the clay. When we say the clay is supporting the pot, it is not like when you put foundation. No, sorry, not foundation, ceiling. Yeah. When you put ceiling, you have something to support, no? You have something to support. After a while, you remove those supports. What is that called? I don't know. Whatever it is, don't worry about that. Support means it is called that as support. It is the support. Now, when we say Brahman supports the world, it is not like how those sticks support the ceiling. It is the gold that appears itself as ornaments. It is the very clay that appears as pot. It is the same Brahman that is appearing as macrocosm and microcosm. So when we use the word support not in the sense of an external, it's not something other than that. It is an intrinsic support. That is why we keep giving the same example of gold and clay and pot. Why? Because it explains the very fundamental point of an intrinsic support. Are you able to see the difference? It's okay, no problem. Yeah. But sir, today only you are saying like this. No, all along, why you didn't say that? How can we? If you didn't say this, how can we know? So comfortable is to blame the Arjuna is saying, I am not able to understand. He is not saying that. He is saying, why are you confusing? You will follow? He is saying, I am not able. He is not saying that. He is saying, why are you confusing? The problem with the Shastras, they are not very straightforward at all. If they put it so straightforward, we will not have this problem at all. So the problem is with whom now? If you don't understand, the problem is Aparna. Books, no. It's very clear. If I don't understand, the problem is not with me. The problem is with the books that is not clear. So change the book. When we say it supports, how does it support? By intrinsically becoming that. Therefore, it kinds of deludes you by not able to see it. In that sense, support. Therefore, when Brahman supports the world, it is not like the stick that is supporting the ceiling. It is not that kind of a support. It is the very gold itself appears as the ornament. It is the very clay that appears as the pot. Immanence and transcendence. Immanence means each and every millimeter, micromillimeter, I don't know what all thing is of the pot is nothing but the clay. Are you able to follow? Second thing that is very important to understand here is the pot can get freedom from the pot maker. The pot can get freedom from the pot maker because he sells it in the market, no? And you buy it. The pot has taken freedom from the pot maker. The pot becomes free from the pot maker. The pot can take freedom from the wheel. The pot can take freedom from the stick that is used to rotate the wheel. So all the so many factors that goes into making the pot can take freedom from, including the creator, the pot maker. But one thing the pot cannot become free of is the clay. The pot cannot tell the clay, why don't you also give me a break? That is immanence. That is immanence of Brahman. So it is not the world is there and Brahman is supporting the world. It is Brahman that is the world appearing itself as Nama Rupa. Through knowledge and understanding, you can do one thing. What? You can ignore the Nama Rupa. When you say ignore means not paying attention to the Nama Rupa, you can understand the God. But the Nama Rupa is so tempting, we get carried away by because Nama Rupa, you believe it has a value. That's why you are getting tempted by it. If you understand that Nama Rupa has no value minus Brahman, Nama Rupa has no value minus Brahman, what will you pay attention to? Brahman. You will pay attention to Brahman, the reality. That is how he says Brahman, the essence in the universe and the essence in the individual. Just as the mind becomes the dream subject and the very same mind becomes the dream object. But how can this become, at least with relation to clay and pot, we can understand one example. One example conveys the example of clay and pot, conveys that angle. But how can that one become both? How can that one become both? I can understand that if I am only Brahman, rest are all not Brahman, I can understand that. How can the Brahman has become the sinner and the saint? It is understandable if Brahman is there in the sinner and Brahman is not there in the saint. If Brahman is there in the heaven and Brahman is not there in the hell. If Brahman is there in the sacrificial person and Brahman is not there in the, what is the opposite of sacrifice? I don't know, whatever the opposite of sacrifice is. How can one become the opposite? That is inconceivable. For which Vedanta says, no, it is not inconceivable and all. You are doing it every day. You go through that experience every day. What is that experience that you go through every day? The dream. Take the dream phenomena. But the dream phenomena, we start thinking whether the dream will come true or not. Why that dream? Maybe early morning 4 o'clock dreams will become true. That is why we all sleep at 4 o'clock, sir. We don't want to get up at 4 o'clock. Why? Because the 4 o'clock dream will come true. And why we want to miss that? 4 o'clock dream, midnight dream and all we don't want. That's why we are awake in the, yeah, why we are awake in the midnight? Because midnight dream will not so early morning dream. Now, that is not the way you analyze the dream. What is the phenomenon of the dream? How the one entity splits itself into two, the individual, the dreamer, and the dream world. How it splits itself into two, and how it merges back into the same entity. And this immanence of Brahman and transcendence of Brahman is explained through the example of clay and pot, gold and ornaments, and the dream. All this is very confusing to understand. Stories will be given. Stories will be given. How each and everything is Brahman. And I have given that story. In Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma got very angry. Lord Brahma got very angry with the, why will Brahma, the creator, get angry with the thing that he created? He created them and he gets jealous of them. Oh, the story itself looks so silly. Brahma got very jealous about those Yadavas. Why Brahma got very jealous about those Yadavas? Because Brahma is waiting and waiting and waiting to see the reality Vishnu, and he is going and living there with them. And Brahma has studied the Vedas and everything. And those people, Yadavas, don't know anything. So Brahma thought, take away all these people, and to protect them, Krishna will come so that I can see Krishna. So he took everybody, hijacked. Correct? Hijacked. Correct. Brahmave hijack panna, why will we not hijack? Isn't it? If he himself is hijacking, why the others also will? Yeah. So Brahma hijacked. Intention is not to kill them or hurt them. Intention is to see Krishna. And then he went off to sleep, thinking that I'll take a few hours break and then wake up and see the chaos in Vrindavan. Chaos, and he wanted to see the chaos in Vrindavan. And Krishna will come. And he slept for a few hours. He woke up and then he saw life is so beautiful that day in Vrindavan. The parents are more loving the children. The children are looking so, why? What happened? Bhagavatam describes it very beautifully. What Krishna did, he converted himself into all the boys. About 120 shlokas that describe that. How Krishna has become each and everything. He has become the cow. He has become the rope that, because you can't only become the, then what happens to the rope? Then what happens to the metal ring? What happens to the earring that the boys are wearing? Various designs, each and every boy is wearing various designs, and he became those respective designs. And everybody, they all went home. Even the lunch box. Because when they come, they give lunch, no? They come into the forest, grazing the cows. So they give the lunch box. So when Krishna, when the boys go back, what will the mother ask? She will want to check the lunch box, whether the lunch box is there or not first. And then the second problem is whether the lunch is. So the mother picks up the lunch box and opens the lunch box. And who is the lunch box? Krishna. That is the immanence of Brahman. That is the immanence of Brahman. Meaning what? Support not in the sense of externally, support in the sense of that itself becomes that. Gold itself turns into an ornament. It is not the gold supporting the ornament. Because of linguistic problem, we have to say the gold supports, the clay supports. But then what you should understand, that itself becomes, okay, in relation to one I can understand. How can I understand that happens in the cosmic level? How can I understand how it is happening at the cosmic level? It is easy to understand by your own experience. What is your experience? Story and all is nice to hear, but then at the end of the day, story will bring a doubt. What is the doubt? The story, but reality, it doesn't happen like that. No, it's very good as a story, but it's a story only. There is no reality to that story. No. It's not like it is not like that. You go through your experience every day. What is your experience? The dream. How the same mind splits itself into very many things. There is the temple in the dream. And then there is the gutter running in the dream. The same mind has become the same mind has turned into the temple. One part of the mind has become the temple. Another part of the mind has become the sewage. That is the macrocosm and microcosm. So it is immanent, meaning it has become that, and transcending that also. Don't think that gold job is to turn itself into ornament. Gold exists all by itself. That is transcendence. It is not that the clay, job of the clay is to turn into a pot. What happens? But clay is transcendence. Transcendence means it need not turn into a pot at all. The gold need not turn into an ornament at all. And yet it turns into an ornament and it retains its, and it can retain by itself. The third thing is the conclusion, the macrocosm and microcosm. What is the third thing? Even when the clay turns into a pot, the nama rupa of the pot cannot touch the clay. Even when the gold turn into an ornament, the ornaments cannot touch the gold. It remains. Even when it changes, it retains its purity. That is the third point. Even when it is become, it doesn't lose anything. This is the topic, macrocosm and microcosm, which is quoted from the 15th chapter. When we go to 15th chapter, we will see this in detail. Each and every verse we will take up. I think he starts from verse number 6, goes up to verse number 15. 10 verses. He talks about the macrocosm, and then he talks about the microcosm, and then 16, 17, 18, Uttama Purusha. And the Uttama Purusha, we have seen that already in previous lesson. Then comes the next topic, to become God. Okay, all that we have seen God. We have seen the gold, we have seen the ornaments, we have seen the pot, we have seen the clay, all that we have seen. The question now is, what is the connection? What is my connection with that? Okay, all that is being discussed. But it doesn't make any sense unless your connect with that is established. What is your connect with that? What is your connect with that? Immanence and transcendence of Brahman. What is your connect with that? At least theoretically, you should say. Not you may not really know it, but at least theoretically say that. One day it will be in one janma it will happen. What is it? What is your connect with that? Your connect with that is you are that. What is your connect with that? You are that. You are that. If you are that, then what is the Nama Rupa? It is a superimposition. What is Nama Rupa? Nama Rupa is a superimposition, and because of it having the status of superimposition, it is called illusion. And please understand, it is not illusion in the sense of imaginary. It is illusion in the sense of superimposition. That's why we started by saying the ornament is a superimposition upon the gold. It's a superimposition upon the gold. Therefore, it is not an illusion as an imagination. Then what is it? Because the English word illusion has a meaning of imagination. When you say it is illusory, it means it is imaginary. It's not imaginary. It is superimposed. And that superimposition is, and what is the nature of that superimposition? The nature of that superimposition, that it is temporary. The nature of the superimposition, that it is temporary, but you don't see it as temporary. That is Maya. You don't see the temporariness. If you see the temporariness, then it becomes very clear. But you don't see the temporariness. You see it as permanent. So superimposition means it is temporary, and anything that is temporary has to be supported by something which is permanent. So when you look at a thing, you can look at the temporary aspect of it, or you can look at the permanent aspect of it. When you start looking at the permanent aspect, you become that. When you look at your own self, you can look at your body, you can look at your mind, you can look at your intellect, or you can identify with the Brahman in you. I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. Mahavakya. Abhyasa Mahavakya. I am Atma Brahma. I am, not English, I am. It is I am. I am means this. I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. That's how he says. As you think, so you become. You look at the body, mind, and intellect instrument. You look at the body, mind, intellect instrument. What happens? You get carried away by that. And dealing with that body, mind, intellect stuff is always exciting, because something can be done there. Something has to be corrected in you. Something has to be corrected in the other. Yeah. Something can be praised. Something can be blamed. Lot of games are possible there. And those games are more exciting than focusing on the reality. So what is it? The conditioned personality misses the real one. How does this principle, as you think, so you become, how does this principle work? All that gives solidarity to anything is nothing but your thoughts. The number of thoughts that you deposit on anything makes it solid. The solidarity comes from your thoughts. If you don't deposit so much thoughts on any one particular thing, it stops. It stops. As far as you are concerned, it stops. As you think, so you become. Thinking means paying attention to. Whatever you pay attention to, you become that. Are you able to follow? Thinking means what? Sir, I'm thinking I want to become rich, 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 but I'm not becoming rich, sir. So as you think, so you become is not working at all. I don't want to get disease. I don't want to get disease. I don't want to get disease, but I am getting disease. So what is this as you think, so you become and all? Now, what is as you think, so you become means whatever you pay attention to, you become that. You have paid attention to the perceiver, feeler, thinker in you, you have become that. Since you have not paid attention to God at all, it doesn't exist. Why God doesn't exist? Because no attention is being paid. No attention is paid. So as you think, so you become means what? Whatever you pay attention to, you become that. And how you should pay attention to Ananya Chinta. That is paying attention. You don't think about anything, anything else other than that. If you pay that kind of an attention, you become that. Are you able to follow? How does this principle, as you think, so you become, works? Anybody who pays undivided attention to anything, they become that. So if you put that undivided attention on Brahman, you become the method. Ananya Sintayanto Mam Yajana Paryupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Raja Aham Tva Sarvapapebhyaha Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. Beautiful principles is explained. This is how, as you think, so you become. As you think, so you become. Meaning, whatever you pay attention to, you become that. Remember that story where the boy paid attention to himself that he has turned into a worm. Don't remember that story, no? How the boy misunderstood that he has turned into a worm. He paid so much attention that he has actually started believing that he is a worm. So the parents took him to a doctor, trying to get him out of that imagination. And the doctor also, yeah. So they put him in neuro-linguistic program. So for what? To come out of the notion that he is not a worm, he is a, I don't know, whoever he is, to become that. Every day, training the other, neuro-linguism, yeah. Every day, bombarding that you are not the worm, you are not the worm, you are the human being, you are not the worm, you are the human being. But then there has to be some technicalities also, no? Because we are all very scientific people, isn't it? We are all very scientific people. So some technicalities. What is the technicality? See the image of the worm. This is the worm. This is the picture of the human being. This is the picture of the human being, and this is the picture of the worm. And then the mirror is placed in front. Now, what do you have in this? So he's looking at the picture of the worm, he's looking at the picture of the human being, and he's looking at himself in the mirror. This is called neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah, program pananum. Because he's thinking that he's the worm, now he has to be reprogrammed, no? And then he slowly confused. Yeah, correct. I'm having hands, worm kitta hands illa, this figure has one. Therefore, I am a human being. After the class is over, after the therapy session, after the class is over, he goes back to the same idea. What is the same idea? Originally, I am a worm, but I am brainwashing myself to believe that I am a human being. The doctor is brainwashing me to believe that I am a human being, but originally who I am? I'm the worm only. Where is the doubt? Slowly, he came to the understanding. What is the understanding? That I am not the worm and I am a human being. He has come to that understanding. Even before the doctor can start, he narrated the entire therapy. This is the picture of the worm. This is the picture of the human being. The worms doesn't have hands. I have hands. The worms doesn't have legs. I have legs. Therefore, I have understood that I am a human being, not a worm anymore. He knew it by heart, left, right, and center. Yeah. In fact, he has become much better than the doctor himself in explaining the differences. Maybe Saturday class teacher mari aita avaru. Yeah. He has become like the Saturday class teacher. And the doctor is happy, the parents are happy, everybody is happy, and they said, we are taking him home. As we are about to leave the gate, man said, I just have one clarification. Let me clarify that and come. After that, it's perfect. What a change now. Previously, there was no doubt. At least now he's having a doubt. They are so happy that this fellow is doubting at least, and they all went back. He said, what is your problem now? The doctor is asking the boy, what is your problem now? The boy said, I have only one doubt. What is the doubt? I am convinced that I am a man, not an earthworm. You have told this to the chicken also, no? Because I never saw you teaching the chicken that. What did the doctor say? Come back. As you think, so you become. Innala will in the image you have a hand, you have a leg, you have a nose, you have a eye, the eye, this is immanence, this is transcendence, this is Brahman, it is the dream. All example kutta. No. After 30 years also, you will go back and ask the same question. What is the question? Did you tell my wife that I am Brahman, sir? Because I have heard you are only teaching me, but you are not teaching the other person. Did you teach the boss in the office also that I am Brahman? Because the boss is not treating me like Brahman. Boss is still treating me like I don't know, however he treats. All foul language people use, isn't it? How the boss is, I don't know how the boss is treating me. Still, have you, as you think, so you become. Panchatantra has another beautiful story. A lion cub was picked up by a lion cub was picked up by a pack of goats, and it grew drinking up the goat's milk, living with the goats. It also thought that it is a goat. And one day when another lion came and attacked this pack, this lion also started running along with the goats. It left all the other goats, it catch hold of this lion, thinking that it is a goat. It took that goat to the well and showed, what do you see there? Goat. The lion is seeing itself as goat. Gave one slap and said, roar. It gave one slap and said, roar like a lion. Not, how does the sheep, what is the lion is called roaring, no? Sheep is called bleating, huh? I don't know, huh? Correct? Unsure, correct? Sheep is called bleating. And lion is called, so it gave one slap and said, roar like a, and it started roaring and it became in that roar, it became the lion. Ram Tirtha says, don't do that, huh? Please. If you do anything like this, it's your problem. Ram Tirtha says, go on to your rooftops and roar, he says. Go on to the rooftops of your house and roar that I am Brahman. Vijay, அப்படிலாம் பண்ணாத. After that, if divorce happens, and I'm not responsible for the divorce. Yeah. And your wife will say, what is wrong? Suddenly, as you think, so you become. Means what? Whatever you pay attention to, you have become that. You become that. All along, you have been paying attention in the wrong area, and you continue to do the same in the present. Not only you didn't do it in the past, what you are doing in the present. In the present also, you are continuing to do the same thing. Not able to segregate the clay and the pot, not able to segregate the gold and the ornaments, not able to segregate the ocean and the wave. This segregation is called discrimination. This segregation is called discrimination, and this discrimination is called intellect. You don't use your intellect at all. When I say you means not anybody here, I'm generally saying. Or I can say I don't use my intellect, man. I can say, yeah, why say you? What is using the intellect means? What is using the intellect means? Discriminating it. What is the discrimination? What is the discrimination? The immanence. You discriminate the immanence. What is the immanence? It is the gold that is appearing as. It is the gold that is appearing as the ornament. Ramakrishna Paramahansa gives a beautiful example. He says, sugar and dolls made of sugar. He says, sugar and dolls made of sugar. You know, you have biscuits, in those days with animal things. I don't know whether you have those biscuits now. No, small biscuits will come. It will be like one. There are some this, isn't it? And children will fight. I want this. I don't want that. Why all this? Adult will laugh at this fight. Adult will laugh at this fight. Why? Because why the adult will laugh at it? Because you understand there is no giraffe there, there is no lamb there, there is no elephant there, there's no there. But then they see that. Seeing that, you get carried away by that. Seeing that, you get carried away. Now the question here is how to become, what is your relationship with the immanence and transcendence? You are that. How to become that? The principle. What is the principle? As you think, so you become. Thinking means attention. Thinking means paying attention. When will you pay attention to anything? When will you pay attention to anything? Thinking means paying attention. And when will you pay attention? You will pay attention only when it is valuable to you. When it is important to you, then only you can pay attention. You can pay attention to anything only when it is, only when you understand that it is valuable, that it is important. So much of reflection and analysis has to be done to understand the importance of it. And once you understand the importance of it, you pay attention to it. Are you able to follow? For you to pay attention as you think, so you become means whatsoever you pay attention to, you become that. And in order to pay attention to that, you got to understand the value of it. Second thing that you got to understand is how distractions takes you away from that. You have to understand two things. Not only you have to understand the value of it, also you got to understand how distractions take you away. And what are those distractions? Perceptions, emotions, and thoughts are those distractions. What are those distractions? The perceptions, the emotions, and thoughts are the distractions. Your own perception, emotion, and thought is the distraction. Others' perception, emotion, and thought is distraction. I'm only worried about how others see me, sir. Not only your perception about you is disturbing, you are disturbed by the perception of others. How others see you is their problem. Why are you? But then you pay attention to that. So if you pay attention to that, you will be affected by that. You are affected by your own emotions and you are affected by the emotion of other. Why you are affected by the emotion of other? Not everybody's emotion affects you. Somebody's emotion affects you. Why? Why the others' emotions affect you? Not everybody's emotion affects you. Why those emotions affect you? Mine, no. One person losing the leg. A person met with an accident and lost the leg. Is it a worrisome thing? Will you go from temple to temple? Will you sit and cry? Will you sit and worry? A person lost the leg. A person lost one of the limbs. What it stirs in you? Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that person is your child. What happens? The stomach starts churning inside, isn't it? Something happens here. Something happens here. I think camera la theriyadunu nenikiren illaya, camera la theriyudha illa, I don't know illaya. Starts, yeah, it starts churning here no solla mudiyadhe, because it doesn't churn here. Where does it churn? Churns in the stomach. Why? Because you have paid so much attention there. Since you have paid so much ananya chinta there, whatever happens there happens to you. Whatever happens there happens to you. So what is paying attention? Paying attention means helplessly. You can't say helplessly. You did it consciously once, now it has become helpless. Starting point of it wasn't helpless. You did it. And then now it has become helpless. In the beginning, it wasn't helpless. You started it. And how did you start it? By constantly thinking about it. Yayato vishayan pumsah sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamah amat krodo bijayate krodat bhavati sammohah sammohat smritivibhramah smritibhramshat buddhinashah buddhinashat pranashyati. எந்த verse இது? Okay, in the text at least. Bhagavad Gita, correct. 18th chapter la varudhu illa, the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says that, isn't it? Correct, Anshu, chapter 2. Correct. Chapter 2, verses 42 and 43. Correct, huh? Prasad. Verses 42 and 43 of chapter 2, correct, huh? Dhyayato vishayan 62 and 63, correct. Yeah, 62, correct. I know, 62 and 63, correct. How you have paid ananya chinta? He starts the how you pay attention to anything. As you think, so you become. Here he explained it so. Those two verses explains it step by step by step. You constantly thinking about it. What triggered the constant thinking? What triggered the constant thinking? That which triggered the constant thinking is, this is where you become careful. What triggered the constant thinking? The first thing was so joyful. The first contact gave you such a happiness that you fell for it. So the first thing gave that happiness and you fell for that. Ananya Chinta continued after that. For what? Hoping to get more and more? Hoping to get more and more happiness. And then what did you realize? Happiness allam varala, sorrow only has come. Then you say, yes sir, I made a mistake. Correct sir, I fully agree with Vedanta. I made a mistake. I should not have done that to A. I should have done this to B. From A, it will go to B. From person A, it will go to person B. From object A, it will go to object B. That is not the way to become God. What is the way to become God? You shift to the entire focus. You shift to the entire focus. Because you have understood. In the elementary classes itself, you have understood. Clear? Thesis on God, Bhagavad Gita kalam badala ellarku inner wellness tha edukanum pol, isn't it? What you see is not what it is. Elementary lesson of intellect. Elementary lesson of intellect is what you see is not what it is. If what you see is what it is, there's no problem. But what you see is not what it is. But you get carried away by that. Ananya Chinta happens because of that. That is paying attention to. As you think, so you become. Since you have paid so much attention to that, you become that. Living amongst the goats, the lion thought. Imagine the lion, a full-grown lion. Huh? What is that? It's called the mane, huh? Isn't it? The mane, and it's a full-grown adult lion living amongst the family of goats. And sight of another animal, all the goats run, and this is also running. As you think, so you become. Now, what is the way to become God? The way to regain the original self is to shift the focus of attention. You have to shift the focus of attention. How do you shift the focus of attention? By, that's what he says, by constantly thinking about it. What is the thinking? What is the thinking? The pot is the clay. Pot is the clay. I am Atma Brahman. என்ன சொல்றோம்? Are you able to understand? At least when I thought long back, when I compare it like this, I thought, what how ignorant a person has become. To say that I am Atma Brahma is like saying I am Atma Brahma is exactly like saying pot is Prida. Pot is clay. Pot is clay. What a Mahavakya it is. The way in which Mahavakyas exposes the stupidity, nothing else exposes. I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma is nothing but saying pot is clay, pot is clay, pot is clay. But then you are not looking at the clay, and you are looking at the pot. Pot is clay, na? What is pot is clay means? The clay itself has become the pot. The clay itself has become the pot. The clay itself has become the pot. Both are one and the same. Both are one and the same. If both are one and the same, if macrocosm and microcosm are one and the same, what happens after that? You cannot have dvesha towards anything. You cannot have hatred. You cannot have anger. You cannot have irritation. You cannot have frustration. You cannot you cannot have any of this after that. Why? Because the sinner is Krishna, the saint is Krishna. The lunchbox is Krishna. The rope that ties the rope that you used to tie the cow, that is also, everything is that. Everything is that. Ananya Chinta. And if you have to do Ananya Chinta, you have to relinquish all other dharmas. Ananya Chintayanto Mam will happen when you do Sarva Dharman Parityajya. When you relinquish all other dharmas means thoughts. When you relinquish all other thoughts, Mam Ekam, thinking about that only all the time, you become that. Don't worry. Moksha ishyami mashucha. Don't worry. I will give you moksha. The Ananya Chinta is giving moksha. He will make sure that it happens. There will not be a failure. That's all. Ananya Chinta gives moksha ishyami mashucha. Don't worry. Why? Because have this Ananya Chinta. And what is Ananya Chinta? When the boy or girl fall in love with each other, they take the hairband, they take the hairband and they, in the movies and all it's shown. I don't know whether people actually do it in reality. I don't know, but it is possible that people will do it. Why? What is the attraction to the hairband? It is not the hairband. It is what the person sees it as. Everything that person touches becomes that person. Ananya Chinta, isn't it? That is called love. That's called love. That's called bhakti also. It's one and the same. That's called bhakti also. Why? Because everything that that person touches becomes. That's why the person drinks coke in the paper glass in the movie theater. And that paper glass also will be taken with so much of devotion and kept safely in the house. No. Why? Why it is done? There are hundreds of cups there. No. Why don't you take any of those cups? Why only that cup? It is not that cup. It is that. Why only? Because it is blessed by that person that you are in love with. Isn't it? Touched by that person. Ananya Chinta. In everything you see only as you think, so you become. Vedanta says is, you don't need training in Ananya Chinta. You are already well trained in Ananya Chinta. Vedanta only says change the object of Ananya Chinta. Avladhan. Srikant, Purida. You don't need training in Ananya Chinta, you don't need, because that you are trained already. All that training, all that thing has to be done is what Vedanta comes and does. It changes the object of Ananya Chinta. Because if anybody comes and asks how to do this Ananya Chinta, sir, he says, of course, you know it better than me, because you are so focused, So Ananya Chinta, you don't need training. But where do you need knowledge? Where you need knowledge? To do this Ananya Chinta on the right object. You don't need training on Ananya Chinta. You need training on to do Ananya Chinta on the right object. And what is that right object? Brahman. And what is the relationship between you and Brahman? It is like asking what is the relationship between pot and clay. One and the same. This is Ananya Chinta. In English, it is called as you think, so you become. As you think, so you become. Ananya Chinta. The crux here is your effort is in relation to Ananya Chinta. And when you do this Ananya Chinta, what happens? Moksha happens. The law of karma. By the law of karma, whatever you have paid undivided attention to becomes yours. You are obsessed with wealth, you get wealth. You are obsessed with something, you get that. Similarly, if you are obsessed with Brahman, we will not say you are obsessed with Brahman, we will say mumukshatva. We will not say obsession, we will call it as mumukshatva. You become Brahman. So the way to become God is what? The constant pressure distracts you to get lost in perception, emotion, thought. Shift the attention from the perception, emotion, and thought. So Ananya Chinta, change the object of Ananya Chinta. And if you have to change the object, it means that I'm summarizing. It means that that object must be of, you must understand the object must be of value to you. Object must be of importance to you. Getting that object should be a matter of life and death. Then you become God. This is the topic, to become God. Next class we'll continue with the next topic, the God and God's finite is infinite. We'll continue with that. With this, we conclude the session for today. Any
Venkatachalam and Mala have posted that.
you are ரெண்டு வேலையே இல்லை. Looks like they don't have any other Venkatachalam.
We talked about illusion, and just wondering, why do we have a common illusion for people in the daily
Your voice is, I'm not able to hear you clearly. Your voice is breaking. Breaking up everyone.
I'm sorry. Is that all right? Can you hear me now?
No, it's breaking up, Venkatachalam.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe something wrong with my setup here. Maybe some internet connection I have.
Yeah, maybe some net issue, that's all. You can type it. Yeah. You can type it. Yeah, you type it out. By the time we'll finish Mala and come back to you.
Okay. I already typed it out.
Oh, you already typed. Okay. Nama Rupa are no more than an illusion. Why do individuals share or have the same illusion? Correct?
Right.
Yeah. Now, you can mute him. I'm getting the feedback because I'm hearing. Yeah. Now, why do individuals share or have the same illusion? We understood illusion means it is a superimposition, temporary. Illusion means a temporary phenomenon is called illusion. That temporary phenomenon, I give it a permanency. That is illusion. The permanency that I give to that which is temporary is called illusion. Correct? The phenomenon is there. And what is the real nature of that phenomenon? The real nature of the phenomenon, it is temporary. Now, what is illusion in that? That which is temporary, I give it a permanency. Why I give it a permanency? A person give it a permanency because they have paid so much of attention to it, and it gives them so much of value. It is like the same person can be loved by 5 different persons and they all will fight with each other, no? Why they all share the same illusion? Are you able to follow? I'm giving a simple example. Here is a girl and there are 5 boys fighting for that girl. Why all of them share the same illusion? All of them have done the same mistake. That's why they share the same illusion. What is the same mistake that all 5 has done? Class board all the 5 were looking at that girl, that's all. If 1 did that mistake, it will be 1. If 5 did that, it will be 5. If the entire class do it, are you able to follow? Why all share the same illusion? Because all of them did the same mistake. What is the same mistake? Of paying attention where they should not pay attention to, or not paying attention where they should be paying. They didn't pay attention where they should pay. Instead of paying attention there, they paid wrong attention. So they all share the same illusion because they all did the same mistake. What is the mistake? Of making the wrong attention. And when you place the wrong attention, you will fail. Then the story is the common, then the storyline is common for everybody. Is it okay, Venkatachalam? Did I answer you? Yes. Mala. நீங்களும் போட்டிருக்கீங்களா? Yeah. If God promises us not to worry and moksha will be given to us, why does problem come to us at all? Correct. If the punishment or problem comes to us immediately in committing a mistake, we can at least correct it. But it comes very late and we are not able to correlate. Why? Very good, Mala. Very good. If God promises worry and moksha will be given to us, why does problem come to us at all? Problem is coming because you have already asked for it. Problem doesn't come out by itself. Problem is that which you have invited. It is the guest. It is, I opened the doors and I invited, come, come, come. But when I am inviting, I thought I am inviting a guest. I thought I am inviting the guest. I thought I am inviting a beneficiary. After that fellow came and sat inside only, 3 days later, I recognized what? What I invited is not a beneficiary. What I invited is a problem. Now I can't get rid of that fellow also. Because now I can't say get out now. Are you able to follow? So, why does problem come to us at all? Problem come to us because we welcome it with open hands. With open hands, with open door, we welcome. If the punishment or problem comes to us immediately after committing a mistake, we can at least correct it. Some problem, mistake, some problem, the result is immediate. Some problem, the result comes later. That is the karma and the action timeline. Gahana karmano gatihi. When he's discussing Karma Yoga, Mala, the Bhagavad Gita, when he's discussing Karma Yoga, he says, Gahana karmano gatihi. The timeline between karma and fructification of karma is impenetrable, Arjuna. One of the extraordinary statements that he has made in Karma Yoga is that Gahana karmano gatihi. What is Gahana karmano gatihi means? The time between the action and the fructification, that is gati. Means the timeline between the action and the result is impenetrable. Why it is impenetrable? There are various factors to it. There are various factors to it. I'm not going into the details. One of the day in the Bhagavad Gita class, I'll be going into the details. There are various factors that determine the timeline. Since there are various factors that determine the timeline, the result, some appears immediately, some appears late. That is the very nature of gatihi. And the karma oda gatiye aduna. Gahana karmano gatihi. It's very difficult, he says. Difficult to impenetrate. It is impossible for anybody to penetrate and understand. When we say it is impossible to penetrate and understand, means to the one who has done enough manana, tapas, reflection, it becomes easy for that person to understand. Where gatihi means it is difficult for one who has not done this work. To put it very simply, what Mala is saying is, I put my finger in the fire. If it is getting burnt 6 months later, that is the problem. If I put my finger in the fire and if I get burnt immediately, I learn it. Now I put my finger in the fire and my finger gets burnt 6 months later. How can I even connect these two? Correct? Adan solrel ninga. How can I even connect these two? Why? Because we are not able to. Why are we not able to connect? We have not done enough work on what is karma and what is the law of karma and how does fructification happens. Gahana karmano gatihi. That is the very nature of, that is the very nature. Some tree, some seed becomes a tree in a few weeks. Some becomes a tree in a few months. Some in a few years. Some takes hundreds of years. And oak tree takes 500 years to become. It takes 500 years. It means the timeline differs. If God promises us not to worry, and moksha will be given to us, God refers to the law. I have explained it any number of times, and I will keep explaining it again and again and again. Whenever we use the word God, we have to understand God means God equals the law. The law promises us not to worry. Instead of using the word God, replace it. The law promises us not to worry, and freedom will be given to you. When will the law promise you not to worry? When will the law promise you don't worry? When you obey the law. When you violate the law will not promise you don't worry. God is promising do not worry, because the assumption is you are not violating the law. Now people understand God as a deity. That is the problem. The misunderstanding is God as a deity is a problem. So we think that we can violate the law and still be protected. Krishna will not protect his own son if he violates the law. Are you able to follow? So God equals law. God is not different from law. But we are so deeply conditioned to believe that God as a person, God as a compassionate entity, God as a forgiving, compassionate entity. First thing in Vedanta that we understand is God is a neutral entity, supports when you obey the law. Compassionate, forgiving entity, not when you do a mistake. Out of compassion, compassionately God will punish you. Just as the mother punishes the child with compassion. So in the punishment also there is compassion only. The child doesn't understand that. Are you able to follow, Mala? It is true. God is compassionate. That is true. But how compassion will come? Compassion will not come as forgiveness. Compassion will manifest as? How it will manifest? Shankar. Punishment manifest. We think what compassionate means? It's okay, பரவாயில்ல நமக்கு தெரிஞ்ச ஆள் தான் வரும் இல்லையா நமக்கு தெரிஞ்ச ஆள் தான் வரும் ஒரு ஃபோன் கால் பண்ணணும் அவ்வளவுதான் சார் just make one phone call. I know the commissioner and the commissioner will say my friend only leave him alone. We think God is that commissioner. We think God is the prime minister. We think God is the chief minister, where we can have a private, where God has a personal link. And how to get that personal link with God? Morning and evening, if I chant Sahasranama, God will be very happy. God will be very pleased. And whenever I violate, God will say, he will tell Yama. What he will tell Yama? He is my guy. Leave him alone. That is our hope. Aparna. That's how we think, no? No. That's how reality doesn't work like that. God equals law. And law promises you not to worry. When? Obey the law. If you obey the law promises you, don't worry. Fearlessness comes. For a person who obeys the law is fearless. And moksha will be given to us. That is that guarantee. That finite effort, all that we do is finite. How can that give an infinite result? How can a finite thing give us an infinite benefit? That is incomprehensible. That we leave it to him and says, moksha will be given to us. Yeah, that is the Shraddha. That part of it is Shraddha. So, why does problem come to us at all? Problem is not coming. Varadingon soltana, guest will not come, no? Yeah. Vangon sonadan, they will come. You call the fellows and say, from now on, my relationship is cut. Nobody comes to my house now. Who will come? Even the mosquitoes will not come, isn't it? Vango, and I keep inviting, isn't it? Why are you not coming? Yeah. They will come. So they are coming because you are inviting. And when you are inviting, you don't know what you are. That's where intellect comes. When you are inviting, you think you are inviting the guest. After the guest comes, you understand that what you have invited is not a beneficiary. What you have invited is a troublemaker. Having invited, that fellow will create the trouble. And you have to go through the trouble. From this you can understand what? How not to invite? How not invite trouble again. Is it okay, Mala? Gahana karmano gatihi. Gahana karmano gatihi. Beautiful word in Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 3, he says, Gahana karmano gatihi Arjuna. The nature of action is deep and impenetrable. Nature of action means action and the result of action. Why one has to fructify immediately? Why another has to fructify 5 janmas later? Impenetrable it is. Impenetrable. For the one who has not understood the karma. For the one who has understood the law of karma, it's not so complicated. Is it okay, Mala? Did I help you? Yeah. Are you okay, Venkatachalam? Yeah. With this, we conclude for today and we continue with God and gods, single and plural.